The ancient stone archives of Xylo Prime contained countless warnings about the species known as humans. Archivist Venrik Lath had spent his entire 87 cycles studying these texts, fingers tracing the weathered glyphs that spoke of bipedal creatures who transformed destruction into creation, weakness into strength. The warnings were specific. Never provoke them, never underestimate them, and above all, never assume they follow conventional logic. More of your human fairy tales. Venrik? Fleet Commander Nesdal loomed in the doorway, mandibles clicking with poorly disguised amusement. The Council grows tired of your obsession with mythical monsters. Venrik's 4 eyes blinked in sequence, a sign of frustration among the Xylonian people. These aren't tales, Commander. 6 different elder species, independently documented, encounters with humans before disappearing from the galactic stage. 6 species who all conveniently vanished? Nesdal's exoskeleton gleamed under the archive's pale light. Perhaps they died of boredom listening to such nonsense. The Kavari Empire spans 3,000 systems. We've mapped every habitable world within 50,000 light spans. These humans don't exist. Venrik gestured to his holographic display. The progenitors spoke of a quarantined zone, a region they deliberately avoided. The dead zone? Nesdal's mandibles stilled. That's just radiation and gravitational anomalies from collapsed stars. Or deliberate misdirection. The progenitors were protecting us, or themselves. A communication chime interrupted them. Nesdal's aide, Lieutenant Fazri, appeared as a flickering blue projection. Commander, Emperor Vazix demands your presence. The exploration fleet has discovered something at the dead zone perimeter. Venrik felt his circulatory fluid run cold. 3 days later, Venrik stood aboard the Imperial flagship Unconquerable Will, staring at the view screen with mounting dread. The dead zone's edge revealed something unexpected, a small, unremarkable planet orbiting an average yellow star. Primitive artificial satellites, reported Science Officer Ariza, her voice carrying notes of condescension. Rudimentary space, technology, barely interplanetary. Significant electromagnetic emissions suggest digital communication networks. Atmospheric analysis indicates heavy industrial pollution. Emperor Vazix, resplendent in ceremonial battle armor that accentuated his imposing 4-meter height, studied the display. Assessment? Pre-FTL civilization, Commander Nesdal replied, promptly. Likely suitable for standard resource extraction. The planet has abundant heavy metals and water. Venrik stepped forward, protocol forgotten. Your Eminence, I believe this may be Earth, the human homeworld. The bridge fell silent before erupting in chittering laughter. The scholar brings his bedtime stories to my bridge. Emperor Vazix's massive frame shook with amusement. Next, he'll warn us of the human superpower. What was it again? Their ingenuity when threatened. Ariza joined the mockery. According to legends, they're physically weak, but somehow defeat technologically superior forces through the power of determination. More laughter followed. Your Eminence, Venrik persisted. The archives specifically mention enough. Vazix's amusement vanished. We are the Kavari, conquerors of the galactic arm. We've subjugated species who could manipulate gravity and bend light. We fear no primitives. The Emperor turned to Nesdal. Prepare the first wave. Standard protocol. Destroy their largest military installations as a demonstration, then broadcast. Surrender terms. Venrik watched helplessly as the massive invasion fleet surged forward. As the first Kavari warships entered Earth's detection range, he whispered a prayer to ancestors who had never encountered humans. Forgive us. We should have heeded the warnings. On Earth, thousands of radar operators simultaneously detected the approaching vessels. In underground bunkers and military headquarters across the planet, humans looked at their screens, then at each other, and began to prepare. Admiral Kitra Morozova stood in NORAD's command center beneath Cheyenne Mountain, her weathered face illuminated by displays showing the approaching alien armada. 37 years in naval intelligence hadn't prepared her for first contact happening as an invasion. Orbital defense grids online, reported Commander Dio Okafor. Thermonuclear countermeasures standing by. But, ma'am, he hesitated. Even with combined global military assets, we're outmatched. Kitra nodded grimly. Get me the Unity Protocol heads. Immediately. Within minutes, the secure holoconference connected military leaders from former rival nations. General Wei from China, Director Rezvani from the Pan-Middle Eastern Alliance, General Rodriguez from the United Americas Coalition, faces Kitra had only seen during classified international crisis simulations. The Sagittarius contingency is active, Kitra announced without preamble. Threat assessment confirms extraterrestrial hostiles with superior technology. Recommend immediate implementation of Unity Protocol. The Unity Protocol, once considered paranoid doomsday planning, had been secretly developed after the Proxima. Centauri signals of 2037 suggested intelligent life existed beyond Earth. The protocol outlined humanity's response to hostile alien contact with one core principle: conventional military doctrine would be inadequate against technologically superior invaders. Release the black projects, ordered Wei. All of them. Rodriguez added, activate the Prometheus network. Minutes later, in hidden facilities worldwide, scientists and engineers received unprecedented authorization codes. Quantum computers that had been running simulations for decades now executed their primary functions. Experimental weapons platforms went live. And deep beneath the Antarctic ice shelf, the Prometheus network, an artificial intelligence specifically designed to coordinate humanity's defense against extraterrestrial threats, awakened fully for the first time. Aboard the Unconquerable Will, Emperor Vazix watched with satisfaction as the first wave of fighters approached the blue planet. Primitive electromagnetic weaponry detected, reported the tactical officer. Nuclear missiles launching. As expected, Vazix said dismissively. Their most powerful weapons are crude atomic devices. Deploy countermeasures. The Kavari fleet activated their radiation shields as the first human nuclear missiles detonated in space. The electromagnetic pulses barely registered on their systems. Their satellites are attempting to transmit data packets toward our vessels. Science officer Ariza noted with curiosity. Likely attempting communication or crude cyber warfare, Nesdal suggested. Destroy the satellites. Venric, standing in the background, felt increasing unease. The archives mentioned human adaptability. Their technological progression is reportedly exponential when threatened. Vazix ignored him. Begin the demonstration. Target their largest military installations. Powerful energy beams lanced from Kavari destroyers toward Earth's surface. But as they penetrated the atmosphere, something unexpected happened. The beams diffracted, splitting into harmless light. Atmospheric interference? Nesdal questioned sharply. Impossible, Ariza responded, mandibles clicking nervously. Unless scan for nanoscale particles. The results came quickly. The atmosphere contains billions of engineered particles reflecting our energy signatures. They're microscopically small but networked together. Venric stepped forward. The data packets their satellites transmitted, they weren't communication attempts. They were programming these defensive particles, a lieutenant interrupted. Multiple small objects approaching our fleet. Too small for our automated targeting. Systems. On the view screen, thousands of tiny projectiles accelerated toward the Kavari ships. When they impacted, instead of explosive damage, they adhered to the hulls. Biological material detected, Ariza reported, voice rising. It's consuming our hull material, engineered microorganisms, Venric whispered. The archives mentioned human biological warfare capabilities. As chaos erupted on the bridge, Vazix turned to Venric with narrowed eyes. Perhaps you're Ancient warnings deserve more attention. What else do they say about these humans? That this, Venric gestured to the dissolving hull plates on the view screen, is just the beginning. On Earth, the global defense nexus hummed with activity as specialists monitored the initial engagement. Dr. Lakshmi Patel, lead developer of the atmospheric nanoshield, watched with professional detachment as her creation performed even better. Then simulations predicted. Biomechanical swarms show 87% effectiveness, reported her colleague, Dr. Osamu Kawaguchi. The modified Kessler maneuver is ready for Phase 2. Lakshmi nodded. For decades, Earth's greatest minds had operated under a simple premise. In case of alien invasion, humanity's only advantage would be home field advantage. They couldn't match advanced energy weapons or shields, but they could transform Earth itself into a weapon. Admiral Morozova's voice came through the speakers. Dr. Patel, we need time. The Archimedes array requires 18 more minutes to achieve full charge. Understood, Admiral. Initiating Kessler Protocol. High above Earth, at strategic orbital positions, 27 seemingly dormant satellites simultaneously detonated. Rather than creating explosive force, they shattered into millions of precisely engineered fragments, creating an artificial debris field that expanded toward the alien fleet. Emperor Vazix watched in disbelief as the debris cloud approached. Evasive maneuvers. The particles are altering course to intercept us, Tactical Officer Merez reported incredulously. They're guided. When the fragments struck the Kavari vessels, they didn't merely damage the hulls, they bonded with them, forming intricate patterns that propagated across the surfaces. Our propulsion systems are failing, engineering reported. The material is generating counterfields to our gravitic drives. Science Officer Ariza's analysis came quickly. The particles contain engineered metamaterials that react to our energy, signatures. They're analyzing and adapting to our technology. Venric consulted the ancient texts on his portable terminal. The archives specifically mention human reverse engineering capabilities. One passage states, they learn through defeat. Each failure makes them stronger. Commander Nesdal's mandibles clicked rapidly, a sign of extreme agitation. This is impossible. No pre-FTL civilization should have these capabilities. Unless, Venric suggested quietly, they are not truly pre-FTL. Perhaps they detected our observation and deliberately appeared primitive. The theory sent a chill through the command bridge. Emperor, Nesdal urged, we should withdraw and reassess. These defenses suggest preparation. They were expecting us or someone like us. Before Vazix could respond, Ariza gave a startled cry. Energy buildup detected on the planet's surface. Massive power signature unlike anything in our records. On the view screen, a blindingly bright beam erupted from Earth's southern polar region, striking the Kavari flagship's sister ship, the Inevitable Conquest. Instead of explosive destruction, the vessel simply vanished. Where did it go? Vazix demanded. Sensors provided no answers. The Inevitable Conquest, a warship carrying 80,000 Kavari soldiers, had completely disappeared. Transmission. Incoming, communications announced. Audio only, broadcasting on all frequencies. The voice that filled the bridge was calm, measured, and terrifying in its confidence. Attention, Kavari vessels. This was a demonstration. Your ship and crew have been phase-shifted, not destroyed. They exist approximately 4 microseconds out of sync with normal space-time, recoverable should diplomacy prove successful. Further, hostilities will result in permanent displacement. You have 30 minutes to withdraw beyond the orbit of Mars. As the message repeated in perfect Kavari language, Venric finally found the courage to quote directly from the archives. Beware, the humans' mercy, for it is more terrifying than their wrath. When they show restraint, it is not from weakness, but from the quiet confidence of those who know they could destroy you utterly, but choose not to. Deep beneath Antarctic ice, In a facility unknown to 99.9% of humanity, Professor Ezekiel Rue monitored the phase shift cannon's cooldown cycle. Beside him, quantum engineers worked frantically to stabilize the experimental weapon system. "Status on the displaced alien vessel?" Ezekiel asked, his voice carrying the melodic undertones of his Haitian heritage. "Phase variance holding at 4.3 microseconds," reported Dr. Imani Okoro, the Nigerian physicist who had theorized phase-shifting technology 15 years earlier. "But we can't maintain the displacement field for more than 6 hours before quantum degradation becomes irreversible." Ezekiel nodded. "That's the point. They need to believe we're being merciful rather than operating at the edge of our capabilities. Through quantum-entangled communication systems, technology kept hidden from routine electromagnetic emissions that might be detected by watchers, Admiral Morozova's voice came through. "The Prometheus AI predicts an 82% probability they'll retreat temporarily," she informed them, "but only a 17% chance they leave permanently. We need to prepare for their return with reinforcements." "Then we proceed with Project Janus," Ezekiel decided. "The gateway prototype is ready." Aboard the remaining Kavari vessels, Emperor Vazix faced an unprecedented dilemma. Retreat would be humiliating, yet the humans possessed weapons that defied Kavari understanding. "We've analyzed the energy signature," Science Officer Iriza reported. "It appears to manipulate fundamental quantum fields to shift matter out of phase with normal spacetime." "That's impossible," Nesdal insisted. "Such technology requires computing power beyond anything a pre-singularity civilization could achieve." Venric, now treated with newfound respect, consulted his ancient texts. "The archives suggest humans have a unique relationship with artificial intelligence. They create synthetic minds but impose ethical constraints that allow continued cooperation rather than competition." "You're suggesting they have AI allies?" Vazix's 4 eyes narrowed. "The archive texts specifically mention silicon and carbon working in tandem as humanity's defining advantage." The bridge fell silent as implications sank in. "We will withdraw beyond their red planet as demanded," Vazix finally declared. "But we will not retreat from this system. Prepare a diplomatic exchange. I want to understand what we're facing." As the Kavari fleet pulled back, jubilation spread through Earth's defense centers, quickly tempered by the knowledge that the respite was temporary. In the Antarctic facility, Professor Rue and his team watched the alien ships retreat. "They're regrouping, not abandoning the field," observed Major Javier Cortez, military liaison to the scientific team. "We showed our phase shift technology too early." "We had no choice," Ezekiel responded. "But they don't know about the gateway yet." On a massive display, complex equations and simulation models illustrated the next phase of humanity's defense plan. Unlike the phase shift cannon, which represented the limit of humanity's ability to manipulate spacetime, Project Janus was something else entirely. The ancient Hindu texts described doorways between worlds, explained Dr. Lakshmi Patel, who had joined them remotely. "Modern physics finally caught up to mythology." On screen, the simulation showed a stable wormhole forming between our solar system and another location thousands of light years away. "We can't defeat a galactic empire with superior technology," Ezekiel stated simply. "But we can call for help." "Major," Cortez looked concerned. "You're assuming whoever answers will be friendly to us rather than to them." Ezekiel smiled grimly. "That's why we're not calling randomly. The Atacama radio array detected communications from the Andromeda Galaxy 3 years ago. Language patterns suggested a civilization with a cultural emphasis on cooperation rather than conquest." "And you think they'll help us?" Cortez remained skeptical. "No," Ezekiel replied. "I think they've been waiting for us to ask." The diplomatic shuttle approached the neutral meeting point, an uninhabited moon orbiting the gas giant humans called Jupiter. Emperor Vazix had insisted on leading the delegation himself, bringing Commander Nesdal, Science Officer Eriza, and, surprisingly, Archivist Vanrik. Remember, Vazix instructed as they prepared to exit. Show strength but not aggression. I want to understand how a supposedly pre-FTL civilization developed quantum displacement technology. The meeting chamber had been constructed hastily by automated Kavari drones, a transparent dome allowing all parties to view Jupiter's swirling storms as backdrop. When the human delegation arrived, the Kavari experienced their first shock. The humans were physically unimposing. Admiral Morozova stood barely half the height of Emperor Vazix. Beside her, a dark-skinned human male introduced as Director Okafor, and an olive-complexioned female presented as Dr. Patel appeared even less threatening. Their fragile bodies lacked natural armor, claws, or any apparent defensive capabilities. "Welcome to our solar system," Admiral Morozova began without preamble. "We would have preferred a more peaceful first contact." Emperor Vazix's translator converted his clicking speech. "Your defensive capabilities suggest you expected visitors. We find this curious." "We've been listening to the stars for centuries," Morozova replied. "We intercepted enough transmissions to know the galaxy isn't uniformly friendly." Venric stepped forward. "Yet our intelligence indicated no quantum technology, no phase manipulation capabilities. You appeared primitive. For the first time, the humans showed a reaction, exchanging quick glances that the Kavari translator systems interpreted as amusement. We maintain certain appearances," Dr. Patel explained. "Your observation platforms were detected decades ago. We allowed you to see what we wanted you to see." This revelation sent shockwaves through the Kavari delegation. Their stealth technology had been compromised without them realizing it. "Impossible," Nesdal objected. "Our cloaking systems are beyond—" "Nothing is beyond analysis and adaptation," interrupted Director Okafor. "That's humanity's true strength. We observe, we learn, we improve." Emperor Vazix's mandibles clicked softly, a sign of deep thought. "The disappeared vessel, the inevitable conquest. Can you restore it?" "We can," Admiral Morozova confirmed. "But first, we require assurances. The Kavari Empire will acknowledge Sol's system as sovereign human territory, off-limits to resource extraction or colonization. You demand concessions while surrounded by our fleet?" Vazix's tone conveyed disbelief. Dr. Patel smiled thinly. "Your reinforcements are 7 light cycles away at minimum. We've analyzed your communication patterns. By the time they arrive, the situation will be different." "Is that a threat, human?" Nesdal's posture shifted to combat readiness. "Not a threat," Admiral Morozova answered calmly. "A timeline. At that precise moment, alarms sounded on all Kavari communication devices. Science Officer Eriza checked her instruments with growing alarm. Massive energy distortion detected near the orbit of Neptune, she reported. It's creating some kind of space-time rupture." On shared display screens, they watched as the fabric of space itself seemed to tear open, creating a swirling vortex of impossible colors. From within this rupture emerged vessels, ships of designs completely unknown to the Kavari database, XX. "I introduce our friends," Admiral Morozova said, gesturing to the screen. "The Andari Cooperative. They've been waiting for us to develop sufficiently to make contact." Venric's 4 eyes widened in sudden understanding. "The quarantine zone, it wasn't to contain humans, it was to protect them while they developed." "Precisely," confirmed Dr. Patel. "Several advanced civilizations recognized humanity's potential. They established a developmental preserve around our star system." "But the progenitors vanished millennia ago," Nesdal objected. "Not vanished," Director Okafor corrected. "Ascended to a different state of existence. But they left guardians to watch over promising species," When we activated our gateway technology, we signaled we were ready. Emperor Vazix stared at the growing fleet of alien vessels, ships of clearly superior design even to Kavari technology, and made the only logical decision. We will withdraw from this system and respect its sovereignty, he declared. And the inevitable conquest? Admiral Morozova nodded. Will be returned once your fleet exits the heliosphere? As they prepared to depart, Venric approached the humans one last time. The archives spoke true, he said quietly. They said your greatest weapon was never technology, but connection. Your ability to form alliances across boundaries that others find impossible to bridge. The universe rewards cooperation over conquest, Admiral Morozova replied simply. We learned that lesson earlier than most. 5 years after the Kavari encounter, humanity had undergone unprecedented transformation. Earth's once separate nations had formally united under the Solar Concordat, a federation born of necessity but thriving through shared purpose. Representatives from all former nations gathered in the orbital habitat New Horizon to mark a historic occasion. Admiral Morozova, now Supreme Commander of the United Earth Defense Force, stood before the assembled delegates and the billions watching from Earth below. At 73, her body showed signs of age that modern medicine couldn't entirely erase, but her spine remained straight as she approached the podium. Today, she began, we officially join the Galactic Cooperative, not as supplicants or protectorates, but as full members with all associated rights and responsibilities. Present for the ceremony were representatives from 12 advanced species, including the enigmatic Andari, whose crystalline bodies refracted light in mesmerizing patterns. Their ambassador, Thelxinar, moved forward with fluid grace. Humanity's admission to the cooperative comes unusually quickly, the translator conveyed Thelxinar's melodic vocalizations. But your species has demonstrated exceptional capacity for growth. Your response to the Kavari incursion proved what the progenitors always suspected, that humanity's potential, once unleashed, develops at extraordinary rates. In the audience sat Professor Ezekiel Rue, Dr. Lakshmi Patel, and the other architects of Earth's defense systems. They exchanged knowing glances. The gateway technology that had supposedly summoned the Andari had been a calculated bluff, a non-functional prototype based on theoretical physics. But the Kavari hadn't known that. And by the time the Andari actually arrived, responding to age-old monitoring systems triggered by the conflict, humanity had successfully portrayed itself as more advanced than it truly was. In the Kavari Empire, an unprecedented political transformation was underway. The failed Earth invasion had shattered the myth of Kavari invincibility. Emperor Vazix faced growing calls for reform from newly emboldened provincial governors and military commanders. In the Imperial Archives, Venric Lath had been promoted to Chief Historical Advisor, his warnings about humanity now recognized as prophetic. Today, he stood before the Imperial Council, presenting his findings. Our comprehensive analysis of the human deception strategy reveals an important truth, Venric explained. Their technological capabilities were advanced, but not as overwhelming as they appeared. Their true advantage was psychological. They understood how we think and leveraged that knowledge perfectly. Commander Nesdau, recently appointed to the council, clicked his mandibles thoughtfully. They made us believe they could phase shift our vessels, when in reality they could only manage it once, with their entire planetary energy grid devoted to the task. And the gateway technology that summoned the Andari, Science Director Iriza added, didn't exist, Venric confirmed. The Andari were already en route, responding to automated beacons left by the progenitors. The humans simply timed their demonstration to coincide with the Andari arrival. Emperor Vazix, his exoskeleton now bearing ceremonial markings of humility, a radical departure from Kavari tradition, spoke gravely. So they defeated us not through superior firepower, but through strategic deception and precise timing. Yes, Your Eminence, Venric replied. And that is precisely what the archives warned about humans. When outmatched, they don't fight according to convention. They change the rules of engagement entirely. Back on New Horizon, the ceremony continued as humanity officially received recognition as the newest member of the galactic community. After the formal proceedings, Admiral Morozova found herself alone with Andari Ambassador Thelxinar in an observation lounge overlooking Earth. "You know, don't you?" Morozova asked quietly. "About our deceptions." Thelxinar's crystalline form shimmered with what the Admiral had learned to recognize as amusement. "Of course. Your gateway technology was non-functional. Your phase shift, weapon depleted your entire energy reserves for a single use. You bluffed magnificently. Yet you still supported our membership application. Because of the bluff, not despite it," Thelxinar replied. "Any species can develop technology given enough time. Few develop the wisdom to know when not to use it. Fewer still can achieve victory through understanding rather than destruction." Morozova gazed at Earth below, peaceful, united, and now connected to a vast community of intelligent beings. "We nearly destroyed ourselves many times before learning that lesson, which makes you value it all the more," Thelxinar observed. "The Kavari and empires like them believe strength comes from conquest. The cooperative knows true strength comes from connection." "They'll return someday," Morozova predicted. "The Kavari." "Yes," agreed the Andari ambassador. "But when they do, they'll find humanity has advanced far beyond today's capabilities, and perhaps they themselves will have evolved beyond conquest." As solar light caught Thelxinar's crystalline form, projecting rainbows across the observation deck, the ambassador added, "The progenitor's records about humanity have one consistent observation. No species adapts faster, learns more thoroughly, from failure, or transforms limitation into advantage more effectively than humans. That is why the elders spoke of your kind with such respect, and why those who ignored those warnings faced consequences." Admiral Morozova smiled, thinking of how far humanity had come, from tribal conflicts to planetary unification, from fearful isolation to galactic citizenship. "The universe is vast and often dangerous," she reflected. "But together, we're stronger than alone." "That," replied Thelxinar, "is the lesson that ultimately separates thriving civilizations from extinct ones. It is the wisdom the Kavari are only beginning to learn, the wisdom humanity embraced just in time." Below them, Earth turned serenely, its unified nations now part of something greater, a coalition of diverse species working together across the stars. The planet that had once been quarantined for its own protection now stood as a full member of the galactic community, its potential finally unleashed. And among the stars, the legends of humanity continued to spread, not as warnings of danger, but as tales of inspiration.